Hundreds of years before Christ was born, the prophet Isaiah had a vision, and it is a vision that we hear every Christmas season.
A shoot shall come out from the stump of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. The Spirit of the Lord shall rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. His delight shall be in the fear of the Lord. He shall not judge by what his eyes see, or decide by what his ears hear. But with righteousness he shall judge the poor and decide with equity for the meek of the earth. He shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall kill the wicked. Righteousness shall be the belt around his waist, and faithfulness the belt around his loins. The wolf shall live with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the kid, the calf and the lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God.
This has been called the peaceable kingdom. And ever since Isaiah uttered those words, they've captured the imagination of people, generation after generation. There's been many artistic renditions of the peaceable kingdom, and here's one of them. It's a very idealistic scene painted many years ago. You see the leopard and the lion and the wolf. You see the lamb and the goat and the calf. You see a little child just playing with all of them, and there's a stream. It's just a very wonderful rendition of the peaceable kingdom. I would like to know what thoughts or what feelings that picture evokes in your mind. Through the miracle of technology, I bet many of you have a cell phone. And if you have a cell phone, I would invite you to text that number and text your feelings or a thought in a word or a few words. What does that elicit in you? And if everything works out, I'm going to share some of your responses in the sermon. That picture and the text number will remain up during the offertory. May the ushers come now to receive it. Today concludes a three-part series, Advent series, on waking up to Christmas. We've talked about if we really, really, really believe that the infinite God surfing on the edge of the expanding universe became a finite little baby so that we could be close to the Son here, then our lives can never really be the same. We have to wake up, shake off some of the Christmas drugs, if you will, of the traditions, and really let the message sink in. We wake up to how we really are to relate to one another in the light of the Christ child. We wake up, as we said last week, to how we are to be really honest with ourselves, with warts and all in our souls. And today, perhaps most importantly, we're going to talk about waking up to the real radical kingdom of this Jesus. Let us pray. Lord our God, we need your Spirit here as you have been bountiful in so many ways. Please give a portion of your Spirit, put it into the words about to be spoken and heard, and into that which will be thought and felt, so that in all ways we honor the living Christ in our midst. Amen. We heard the Manchester Brass and we heard the choir portray, "Go tell it on the mountain," and we're going to be telling it, singing it. We're going to be talking about how love came down at Christmas. We're going to have joy to the world. It's a great message of hope and joy and love and peace. And yet, what happened this past week? Over 140 people, mostly children and youth, killed in a terrorist attack on a school in Pakistan. Or over 100 women and children kidnapped by rebels in Nigeria. Each week, it's the same type of news. It seems as if for every proclamation of "Go tell it on the mountain," there's another proclamation we don't want to hear. For every Jesus announcement that he's born, the Prince of Peace is here, we have a Herod announcement that all kids 2 years old and younger are going to be killed in Bethlehem to try to snuff out this Prince of Peace. Have you ever thought about what that was like to be in Bethlehem in that time when the soldiers were carrying out the edict from Herod? Look at this portrayal of a mother shielding her son from the soldiers. Is that not any different from the pictures we see today? Afraid for a child, terror, panic. The kingdom of the world embodied in that picture. Fact of the matter is, for every Jesus announcement, there's a Herod announcement. For every peaceable kingdom, there's an Afghanistan. For every act of justice and liberation, there's an equal and opposite act of injustice and oppression. It's the way of the world. Just look. Two kingdoms cannot peacefully coexist in this world. For every attempt for there to be hope, there is an equal and opposite attempt to snuff out that hope. And yet, no matter how depressing the news and oppressive the force of hate in this world, we still have that picture of the peaceable kingdom, and we still have within our hearts that yearning for that time when the lion shall lie down with the lamb and the little child shall lead them. I'm curious as to how did you respond to that picture? What was on your minds? What was on your hearts? Goodwill to all. Maybe someday, maybe, the world as it should be. Let us love one another. Tranquil. A heart. What I hope the world would be. Togetherness. All of God's creation. Perfect harmony. Perfect peace. Where are his parents? He's going to fall into the stream. There's always one. But we yearn, right? Well, you look at that picture, and now please understand that that's the same type of feeling, that yearning that Mary and Joseph had as they held that little baby in their arms that first night. Look at them. Imagine Mary and Joseph looking at that child and dreaming the dream of Isaiah, but just now that the parents are imagining the dream coming true in the child. The kingdom has started. Flesh and blood, no longer just a dream, but flesh and blood. Imagine Mary and Joseph dreaming of that kingdom. Imagine you and me dreaming of that kingdom of the child. The kingdom where the word racism is obsolete, because never more will someone look at another person and judge that person according to a skin color or a religion or a sexual orientation or a political affiliation or socioeconomic status. No, they're all equal, all possible brothers and sisters together. Like Mary and Joseph, we look at that child and we dream. We dream of that kingdom where the word I, the initials IED are obsolete as well, and that there is no longer a bomb, or there's no longer a flashbang. There are no longer soldiers. And the police we have are now able to be peace promoters and not just peacekeepers. You see what I mean? Where all are given equal access to justice and education and the ability to have a rich, fulfilling life. That is the kingdom that we dream of as we look at the child, as we will look at the child in the manger on Christmas Eve. Can you feel it? Can you see it? The world wants to snuff out the dream because the world still wants to seduce us with some of the eucalyptus, as we've talked about, the drug of materialism and of money and of the drug of how good we feel when we slice and dice people into us and them, you know? Or how this world tries to seduce us into listening to the rhetoric of hate and stereotype and prejudice of black and white and no gray in between. But we, friends, are dreamers, because to be Christian at this time means to dream. To dream just like Mary and Joseph could dream of that kingdom that their child is bringing into the world. And if we really do our job this Christmas and dream, then we're going to open our eyes and we're going to see things differently. We'll see things differently. We'll be able to see perhaps a brother and a sister where once we saw a stranger. If there's one good thing that came out of the Ferguson tragedy, it was that it forced us to understand that people are people, no matter whether they live in Ladue or Ferguson, town and country or Florissant, regardless. How can you forget this picture of Natalie DuBose? Natalie owned Natalie's Cakes and More, and on the night in which the grand jury verdict was announced, looters destroyed her store and arsonists burned it, if I'm not mistaken. Destroyed it. And here's a picture of her looking at the remnants of what was left. She had put everything she had into that store so that she could raise her two daughters by herself. And when that picture was broadcast, suddenly it put a human face upon the tragedy that was unfolding. And people understood that no matter where you live, you have the basic needs of life and you have the basic rights of dignity. And so, when that picture was circulated and the story of Natalie heard, over $250,000 in donations poured in so that she could start her store up once again. And hugs replaced the tears. Because people in this world for a split second caught the vision, caught the dream that we are seeing and we dare dream. That we all are in this together, friends. We are caught in that cloth of mutuality, as Dr. King said. And what happens to one happens to us all in the kingdom of the child. Blessed are you and me when we can see a brother or a sister in the face of a stranger. And really blessed are you and me when it doesn't take a Ferguson to make us see it. If we dream the dream, that child, then our eyes will be opened. Something else will happen too. I Googled angry words. Usually I Google angry birds. This time it was angry words. And in seeing angry words and all the hits that I got from that, there was this proverb that I ran across. It said, always taste your words before spitting them out. Always taste your words before spitting them out, which means before you spit out anything that could be construed as hateful, as prejudicial, as stereotypical, anger, whatever, stop, taste them, and hopefully swallow them. Unfortunately, there's more spitting than swallowing that goes on in our society, right? Whether you see the show of Bill O'Reilly, or hear Rush Limbaugh, or tune in to The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, or used to turn in to Stephen Colbert, his rapport. Doesn't matter. We live in a culture of complaint and of criticism and of ridicule, and we buy into it without even thinking. We criticize our parents for how they raised us. We criticize our kids for their laziness. We criticize our spouses for their inattentiveness. We criticize our coworkers for their laziness. We criticize our boss for micromanaging us. We criticize our politicians for their lack of decision making. We criticize our preachers for criticizing our criticisms. Right? I mean, we just do. It's the way of the world. We don't give our fellow humans benefit of the doubt. And consequently, they will live down to our expectations and we'll criticize them for that. But I also Googled the phrase kind words and discovered this proverb. One kind word can warm 3 winter months. I like that. And I bet we can, each one of us, prove the truthiness of that proverb by Christmas time, I believe. How about someone you don't know who's feeling cold this winter? You know, because these next few days are going to be crush time at the post office and in restaurants and at stores and at quick stops, you know. How about seeing someone who really is haggard and have a kind word, have a word that compliments them or a word that appreciates something they're doing. Note it, share it, and see what happens to their face. Because you know as well as I that the kingdom of that child is reflective of the words that that child spoke when he grew up. Words of compassion, words of encouragement, words of grace. So, to someone you don't know, share those words this season before Christmas. Because if you do that, then you have you're getting exercise and doing something that's a little more difficult. To share a word of encouragement to someone you might take for granted, even someone you might live with. Know what I mean? If you dare dream of that kingdom that child is ushering in, you'll never look at things the same way, people the same way. You'll never talk the same way. And you're going to do something with your hands differently. The way of the world is the way of the fist, right? If you were to make a fist right now and look at it, what do you think that would convey to you? Closeness? Defensiveness? Greed? Self-centeredness? Violence? Anger? Welcome to the kingdom of Herod. Welcome to the kingdom of this world. But for those of us who dream, it's the way of the open hand, right? It's the way of one who is vulnerable, one who is generous, one who reaches out. It's the way of a Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It's the way of a Mother Teresa. It's the way of a Pope Francis. Now, we dreamers might not ever be able to reach out in openness like a doctor or a mother or a pope. But we can do something with these hands. We can reach in our pockets for a couple of $3 to buy a cinnamon roll or bread to help the homeless in our bridge bread, or we can write a check to Ameren or to Laclede to help a struggling family keep warm this winter. We can use these hands to knit a prayer shawl to keep a person who's undergoing chemotherapy a little bit warmer. We can use these hands to open up a car door and help an elderly person in and drive that person to the doctor's office. We can use these hands to write a note, a personal note on that Christmas card to someone going through a difficult time. You know? Because we who dream can never be unaffected by the vividness of the kingdom of that child. Our eyes are open. Our mouth is open. Our hands are open. And if we dream the way we should be dreaming, then those who haven't caught the dream yet are going to look at us and say, you know, there's something about that person. What is it? Is it that person sees brothers and sisters where there once was division or hate? Or is it that the person speaks differently, that person's words are smoothed by compassion and grace and directed by justice? Is that what's different about that person? Is it that the person reaches out to help someone when they don't really need to? Yes, if we dream properly the dream of that child and that child's kingdom, then people will say, there's something different. And as we moved into Christmas Eve and finally the world slows down and things sort of take that warm glow of Christmas Eve time, then we'll understand ourselves. Because we know that as we come into Christmas Eve, we are honoring not just a child, we are honoring the kingdom and the dream of that kingdom that little baby ushered in. The world is going to celebrate a holiday. We are going to kneel before the newborn King. We will dream. We will dream. We will dream of that kingdom. And as that child sleeps, we will awaken to him.